5 p.m. And I now call to order the meeting of the VCPUSD School Board. A quorum is present. And is there any comment on closed session items?
No comments tonight.
Being no comment, we will now recess into our closed session. It is 6 p.m. and thank you for coming to our meeting. It is the meeting of the Valley Center-Pauma Unified School District School Board, and we have a quorum that is present. And we are moving forward. Hang on right here. Into the Pledge of Allegiance, and it is going to be led by Tommy Polito. I'm sorry, this is hard meeting. And that is Ruth Clementine Polito, Mary's granddaughter. Thank you all for being here. And tonight, this is a favorite time of our meeting where we honor, we have several that will be honored. And also, we want you to know that if you stay for those, there's 3 presentations coming up. We will take an intermission after that. We're moving forward right here to the approval of our agenda. Additions, deletions, and corrections. Do I have an approval?
So moved.
Okay, and a second? I'll second. Okay, any discussion? Being none, we'll vote. Member Benjamin?
Aye.
Member Caputo?
Aye.
Member Kolb Sr.? Aye. Member Polito? Aye. And Member Stroh votes aye. Now we're moving to a very special part. I'm sorry, this is hard for me. It's a beautiful time. We are honoring our beautiful longtime board member. She's the longest serving board member on our board and has been an amazing, fabulous, I have to say, wise woman and warrior for our students, for all students. And I'm going to hand this over. First off, we will call Adrienne. You know what, do I read Brown Act?
Yeah, let's read the
I am going to read the Brown Act because we have, usually it's later in our agenda, but if we have public comment, Brown Act requires that it's a regulation we have to do. So I'm going to read that first, and then Adrienne, Supervisor Desmond's head gal will be coming up. So members of the public are encouraged to attend the board meeting and address the board concerning any item on the agenda or within the board's jurisdiction. In order to conduct and direct business on a orderly manner, the board requires that the public presenters comply with board policy number 9323. And that's including the following. Members of the public wishing to address the board must complete a request to address the board form prior to the meeting and give it to the board secretary. The board president then will recognize each person who has requested that and wants to address the board at the proper time. They must speak their name, and the speakers will announce prior to addressing the board, and all comments are limited to 3 minutes per item or 20 minutes for the whole item. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the board trustees and their staff's ability to respond to any comments I gotta dry my eyes, sorry. Okay, here we go. There we are. Hi, guys. Okay, it was like, okay. So, items on the agenda. Thank you very much, Ron. I had no idea. A mess. The board may not legally take action on any item not specifically listed on the agenda. And if there are any concerns regarding specific individuals, it is preferred that the speaker refrains from naming them publicly to respect their privacy, please note that once the board closes the public input time on the agenda item, only the board members and staff are involved in subsequent discussions. Thank you so much for your cooperation and understanding my reading that. Okay, we are going to move forward with Adrian. Would you please come up representing Jim Desmond, wonderful supervisor.
Good evening, everybody. I don't know if this is on or I'm loud enough. Is this on?
It is on.
Okay, good. I am the community liaison for Supervisor Jim Desmond. Is it on?
Yeah.
I hope y'all can hear me. And I'm here today to present a very special San Diego County proclamation honoring Mary Polito, who's retiring from the board. As you all know, Mary has served in the Valley Center-Pauma Unified School District for about 11 years, probably a little more. She was a vice president, a clerk, and a president from 2015 to 2017. Mary has always given back to her community and has been active and involved in teacher-parent clubs, the Valley Center High School Foundation, and also serving as a volunteer in school and athletic events. In 1975, she graduated from Humboldt State as an English major and is married to Robert Bob Polito, and together brought up 3 amazing kids. I think some of them are here, and adults now, Augustine, Gus, Samuel, Thomas, and 4 beautiful grandchildren. In 1979, Mary and Bob founded the Polito Family Farms and are still successfully running that business. And if that didn't keep her busy enough, she was very involved in the community activities as a parishioner of St. Stephen's Catholic Church right next door. Mary is an outstanding school board member extraordinaire who consistently put the interests of the students' education first, especially when we had those not very fun pandemic years, and also through budgeting issues. Thank you, Mary, for all you have done and have accomplished here, and we wish you all the love and happiness in your retirement from the board. So I have a special proclamation that says, whereas the County of San Diego is committed to recognizing and honoring those individuals who are dedicated to the best ideals of public service, and Mary Polito is such one worthy individual, now therefore be it proclaimed by Supervisor Jim Desmond and all the county supervisors on this 18th day of January 2024 that we commend Mary Polito for her wisdom, her dedication, and her commitment to the Valley Center-Pauma students, and for making a positive impact in North County communities. And do hereby declare this day as Mary Polito Day throughout San Diego County. Congratulations!
Oh my gosh, thank you. You guys, that's hysterical.
You deserve it. We'll get the photo after, yes. Oh, thank you, Adrian. That was beautiful. Well said. So true. And we have one speaker. The best. Polito.
Oh,
Yes.
I'll make this very short. I guess I'm representing the Mary Polito fan club tonight.
yeah. Mary Polito Day!
I tell you, it's those 11 years have gone by quite fast. You know, you get your kids, you see them grow up, and before you know, they're gone. And So Mary's been on the board 11 years, and it just doesn't seem like that long ago. And you know, she and I would talk. I've been on the water board for I don't know how long, a long time. But she, you know, she's had the tougher job. You know, she has to deal with, you know, students and teachers and unions and everything. You know, all I got to do is worry about pipes and plumbing, and by far I have the easiest job. So, Mary, I'm glad. Honestly, I'm glad you're retiring, though. I'm sure they're going to miss you, but I'm glad to have you back full time. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Don't we call him Saint something, Mary? Bob? Oh, she's trying to put there. Go ahead.
His name is Saint Joseph.
Saint Joseph. And we have one more person who would like to say something, and that's Terry Devlin.
Oh, Mayor Bear, I should have prepared better. But I'm kind of here representing all of your sisters that are here in Valley Center, and certainly our Bunko sisters. And way back when Mary and I first met, some of our boys are the same age, and we're in class together, Gus and Trevor. And I always admired Mary so much because she'd get up in the morning and read the whole paper, and she would get the Wall Street Journal, and she'd read that. And I don't really know what I did in the morning looking back, but I just always admired her intelligence and how much she was current on what was happening in the world for our kids and for the school. And when she ran for school board, I just beamed with pride because I knew if there was anybody in our community that would represent our kids, Mary was absolutely one of the best people. And so I didn't realize it was 11 years. And Mary, I'm just so thankful that you could do this. And like Bob said, I'm thankful that you get to retire and take good care of yourself now. And thank you for all your years of service here in Valley Center and for the school board. And I send that from all of your sisters here because we love you, Mayor Bear.
We do. Thank you, Terry. Thank you so much.
You guys are the best. We're the Bear family.
And then if anybody else would like to say something from this table, board members.
I will. I've only been on the board since 2020, but Mary, I think that plaque is right in first saying your wisdom, because I've been blown away how wise you are. All the decisions, you ask questions that I never thought of asking. But what I have really appreciated is your lens, or kind of your filter that you evaluate every question that we've had in closed session, open session, meeting with Ron or whatever, is putting students first. And it doesn't matter finances, union, anything, that is your lens that you've evaluated every question, is how does this impact students, and is this benefiting students and putting them first? And so that's a big lesson to me, and so I really appreciate you teaching me that.
Thank you, Paul. Go ahead. Mike?
I really appreciated you too. I loved how you asked great questions. And your kids are in the schools, and you know, it's different than when I was, you know, teachers are all different, and I've really appreciated your time on the board too.
Wonderful.
I'd like to say I've only got 1 year with you, and I was hoping to get more wisdom from you, as you're a very wise woman, very beautiful, and very considerate, and yeah, strong-minded, and that's high qualities. I'm going to miss you, and you're going to be very, very, very hard to replace. So thank you, Mary. Thank you so much.
I've
Well
loved sitting next to you.
Well, Alfonso.
You're so kind, and you know, always pulls out my chair. You're a gentleman,
Always.
and I love that about you.
Okay.
And
Thank
also
you.
your wisdom. You
Oh.
have great wisdom
Thank
in
you.
the meetings.
Gonna miss you so much, very much.
Well, I'm in the same boat as Alfonso, and I'm feel blessed that I had the year to spend with you. It was, I believe that the world is lacking people to emulate, and I think that you're one of those people that exudes leadership and trust and honesty, and it's been really cool to get that introduction for my first year. I have 3 kids currently still in the school district, as we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
2 graduate this year, and then I'll have a sophomore, and I'll have 1 year left on my term, and I'll without a kid in the school district, and it's going to be hard to fill your shoes, and I hope you recognize that you instilled a lot of your passion and wisdom in us, and we hope to be able to carry that forward. So it's really been a blessing.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to stay with the new board members here is you guys are hitting it out of the park. Yes. I really think the 2 new board members have been terrific, a real team, and it's been great.
Very much.
Of course, love our president and our super.
Yep.
She did threaten that she can now come here and address the board, so we better be careful.
Yeah.
Mary, I just want to say a few things. First of all, it's been a pleasure working with you for, well over 20 years, in different capacities. And, as I look out at some of the people that came to see you tonight, just remembering back to some of the original families when we opened the high school and looking out in the crowd and saying, man, I remember their kid and their kid. And there were just such special moments when we opened a brand new high school in Valley Center, and you were a huge part of that. And, as a vice principal, you're always a big help. You're always part of the foundation. We were, pulling off different events together, and just the amount of time that you would put in. And then, of course, as a principal, and then you became a board member. I did talk to Mary, past superintendent, and also Lou, and their comments are in the newspaper, so I won't reread them. But Lou asked me, she goes, Lou, do you remember when I went up to you, I asked her, who is this Mary Polito gal that wants to run for the board? Because, and I gave her a glowing report of who you were, and you proved everything right and gave me like kind of a good in with the superintendent at the time. So I appreciate that too. But then as going from principal to superintendent and just knowing your leadership and where it was going to be at, I felt real comfortable with it. And, I've said it before, but Mary, over the last 11 years, and even before that, but always has taken our conversations, which sometimes, unfortunately, deal with adult issues, and redirecting them to what's best for our students. And it didn't matter what the issue was. You always had a great way of saying, hey, we need to look back at what's going on with our students. And that wisdom and the way that you did that, you did it in just such a graceful way. It was very much appreciated. The other thing that I appreciate personally as a superintendent going through COVID, I would imagine some superintendents had board members that could see eye to eye with them and what they thought about COVID and what their feelings were. But for me, I was able to vent with Mary because our ideals are so much the same when it came to some of the things that we were being told we had to do. You were just a nice phone call for me because I knew I could always tell Mary exactly what I thought, and there was nothing. She was right there with me, and same with all of our board at that time. And being a superintendent, that was a gift. And Mary, you were a fun phone call for me because it was nice to talk to somebody down to earth and not just school people sometimes during COVID.
Yeah, and I want to say you were the right person at the right time during COVID.
No, thanks.
I think you did a great job.
Well, and it was your guys' leadership on the board that allowed us to do some things that didn't happen in other communities. So I thank you for that leadership. So, and Mary, great board member, and really love you a lot. I'm going to miss you.
It's been a pleasure to serve our community and the school,
And
the kids.
Oh, go ahead. Keep going. Yeah. I'd like to just say, because Mary and I go way back, we started working or helping serve, choosing to do that. Mary has a degree in English, and she could probably have taught anywhere as well, but decided to be a servant with her first boy, Augustine Gussie, and at the B school. We were at the primary school and working with the TPC. Plus, the school benefited from her boys also in bilingual. She was right alongside all the time. She was there helping over and beyond the call of duty with the TPC in each school we were at. She is just a wealth of information, what I love about her, because I love to research too. But Mary always, I mean, she's Wall Street. She's, you know, she gives me so much information, and we collaborate all the time. And truly, her heart is about the students. It is. On her sign, it said students first, and that's what she meant, and that's what she lived, is everything that she put forth for the 34 years she was in service through TPCs, Valley Center High School Foundation, to help be huge in that, and then being a school board member. And she has brought so much, I would say, joy, security, wealth of wisdom to our students, and just goes the extra mile for them. And I know she will continue because she'll be praying for us. She's a woman of God, and she just, we will desperately miss her. This board is incredibly cohesive. She's a huge part of that cohesiveness. And we just love you, Mary, and thank you from Bee Buzzathon, athletics, all the things, ag. I can't think of an aspect you haven't been concerned with. Even culinary arts, that was her way back in the
That's right,
superintendent
we
loop.
started all that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And so it's just been, Valley Center Community and School District has just benefited immensely from Mary Polito. We love you.
Thank
gonna
you
miss
very
you.
much. I love all you guys.
Oh, want me to read it?
Mary Polito Day.
I'm going to read the plaque for you. It says, Valley Center-Pauma Unified School District honors Mary Polito, School Board Trustee 2012 to 2024, President, Vice President, and Clerk. Thank you for your years of leadership, dedication, and selfless service to the students and community of Valley Center-Pauma.
And that's done by our school.
There you go.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you all so much for, what a surprise, my brother is here. I just went, who? I know that guy. Anyway, thank you all, and this is a great community, and I'm even looking forward to the employees of the year, because they're also, you know, Valley Center people. You know, that's what makes our district special.
That's
It really is.
That's right.
And it was a pleasure to serve all of you, and it was my, what do you call that? My,
Situation.
anyway, but thank you very much, and thank you all for being here, and
We love you.
Mary Polito Day.
I would like to ask Superintendent McCowan about accepting and recognizing this day moving forward.
Yeah, I think it would be fine if the board wanted to vote on the resolution for the day of Mary Polito in the county of San Diego. That would be just fine.
I would like to move forward on that. Do I have a motion?
Also move on that.
A second?
I'll second.
Any, okay, here you, any discussion? Hallelujah. No.
Amen.
And let's go for the vote. Member Benjamin,
Aye.
Member Caputo,
Aye.
Member Kolb Senior,
Aye.
Member Polito,
Aye.
yeah, and Member Stroh, aye. That motion is passed. Mary Polito Day, January 18th. Thank you so much. Thank you, that was wonderful. Now we're going to move forward into our two other awards. We have presentations, And we're going to start with the first one, Employees of the Year. And our first recipient is Nancy Cummings. She is a classified of the year. She was of the month, but our classified person, lady, beautiful woman of the year is Nancy Cummings.
And the way that we do our Employees of the Year for the district is each school site has Employees of the Month. And each school site gets a different month. So really, their Employee of the Month is their school site's Employee of the Year. Then in January, all those names come to us, the cabinet, which is the members of the staff here, and then our directors. And then we look at all the Employees of the Month, and we pick the district-wide Employee of the Year. So it's kind of a process that we go through, and it just happens to be that the district overall has an Employee of the Month, which was last month, which was Nancy. So I had Nancy up here last month, so I'm going to try to say a couple of different things because now she's the Employee of the Year. And personally, I have been blessed. I met Nancy and Dan shortly after I moved up into Valley Center, 20-something years ago. And Nancy began working at our schools. My experience with her, she first started at Pauma, but then she got to the high school, started working in the athletic department, which was right next to the principal's office. We got to be a lot more close, and our kids are about the same age. And we really just had a great time working with Nancy. And then right before I about 6 months before I ended up being superintendent, the superintendent came to me and says, hey, we need to get a new executive assistant. And who do you think would work out well? And I said, well, you're going to be kind of surprised because she's kind of just a secretary with our athletics and does the attendance. But, I think Nancy Cummings is perfect for it with her banking experience. And, well, she agreed with me. Nancy became the executive assistant. 6 months later, I became the superintendent, and I'm telling you, it would not have been half as easy if she hadn't already greased the wheels for me. She got up there, figured out what the job was, exactly knew what to tell me to do so that I could perform the job. But besides that, just over the last 5.5, 6 years, the friendship that you've had for me or with me and the battles that we've gone through, we go back and talk about COVID, and there's not too many people the superintendent gets to talk to. And Nancy was always that person that I could always talk to. She had great reasoning and sound judgment. You talk about, where are these decisions being made? Many of those decisions were made with a lot of input from Nancy over the years that I was superintendent. Everything you did was just the good ones. And the other thing I want to say, and it's very special about Nancy for me, and then I'm going to have Julie speak a little bit too, because in the position of the executive, the superintendent, you're also kind of the executive assistant to the board. And, if we go places, Nancy would make all of our reservations for every board member, set us up completely, and then you get a folder. And all you got to do is follow page by page on the folder, and you get a great trip. And so she really works for everybody. But for me, Nancy, one of the things I think back of, we have a great district that has a lot of history in it. And I see Barbara Rohr here today, which was a longtime school board member for us and a community member. And she stops by my office probably 2, 3 times a month and updates me or reminds me of history in our district. And it's so great because we know all the names of the people that came before us and the people that really set Valley Center-Pauma Unified School District. But really set our district on a pathway to be the successful district we are today. And those names are like ingrained in our culture here. And so often Nancy and I would be talking about Dee Ortega, who was just an outstanding executive assistant, and then Lucy Contreras. And in fact, there's a key in the district. It's called the Lucy key because Lucy's the only one that ever had the key. Now Nancy has the key. And lucky for me, the next executive is also a Nancy Pena, so I don't even have to learn a new name. But when you look at those people, and we kind of idol them for what they did, and I know that both of those two ladies hold a big spot in your heart. And I guess what I want to say, you're right there with each one. Okay, so thanks, Julie. Oh, wow. I didn't think it was going to be this bad, but we started with Mary, and now it's like, but truthfully, you'll be remembered just as those ladies are remembered.
truly a tough one. She has been here. She's been another warrior. These two are two very wise, wonderful women of worship, but warriors for us and for our students. And Nancy, I know the board agrees 100%. You go the extra mile. This gal just works beyond the hours she should. She's very well deserving of this retirement, but she's a woman of grace that just always fixes it, gets it done on time, makes me feel relaxed, and has our tea or whatever for us. She knows when we come in, she is just smooth and beautiful and full of grace. And we will desperately, deeply miss you. But you have done so much for our board, our board unanimously, and that reaches out to our superintendent and to the teachers and to the students, who that's what we're about. But thank you for all of your wealth of wisdom and grace, and you're just gorgeous. Thank you so much.
It is a fact that this could have been given to so many other people, so I am very humbled that you chose me. Dan is here, and he and the kids know, my kids know very well that I like to refer to the rearview mirror. You know, sometimes when you find yourself in a spot and you wonder how you got there, you look in the rearview mirror and you can see all the decisions and twists and turns that put you where you're at. So for me, when I look in my rearview mirror, what started out as a very sweet little part-time job at the school turned into like a full-blown vocation in just a matter of time. And I remember very well when Ron, he mentioned it, he called me into the principal's office and he said, Nancy, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And all I could think of is, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be almost 60. Why are you asking me this? It's not very, I had no idea where, and then he explained why he was asking, and so the rest you know. And I just wanna say that we all went through the pandemic and the craziness. Everyone in this room knows about it. But it was truly working shoulder to shoulder with everybody in the district office and everybody throughout the district that shows exactly what's been said here many times tonight, is there is just a Valley Center family. There is. So when I look in my rearview mirror, what I see is my second family, people who I know and love. And I am just so grateful, and thank you so much for the last 10.5 years. Thank you.
And I know many of the people here know Nancy and also know that she's also retiring at the end of this. She actually will go to the end of the month, but this is her last official board meeting. And normally she sits where the other Nancy is sitting now, but you know, that's one of the reasons for it being quite emotional too, is we're saying goodbye to Nancy also.
Well, and you're in very capable hands. And you'll be seamless.
So these are, you know, it doesn't look like it's a whole lot of fun up here, but this is a fun time because we're really celebrating some people and the great job they've done. I'll go home and say, why couldn't I hold it together? But our next person that we're going to recognize, this is our Teacher of the Year. And what's really special about this person, and Libby, why don't you come on up here? Yeah, she wants me to go as fast as I can. So, but Libby was a student of ours, and it's kind of that, we just love that connection when students come back and work in our district. And she had went away and went to school, and she came back and was working at Pauma Elementary School for us and worked there for, before we were a teacher, almost, was it 7 or 8 years? 7 to 8 years. She did lunch duty. She worked as a tutor. And I believe from talking to her, she started working with students. She realized, hey, I can be a teacher. And we kind of said, hey, you could be a really good teacher. And she went through a program which is very special. It's part of the CSEA, which is our statewide union for classified employees, where they can go to work and be working in a classified position and get a scholarship to then go back and become a teacher. And it's a great way for people who really want to be a teacher and have a natural ability like Libby does to relate to students and be able to help students when they don't quite get it, to be able to understand it by the ways that she explains it. And not everybody's got that gift. And through this program, she was able to really be an example of working full-time, going back to school, and I'll say full-time. You want to say part-time? Okay. Working full-time, and really not just an example to our students, but also to a lot of our other employees of, here's places that I could go and here's things that I can do, especially, when it comes to falling in love with educating children. And just really proud of you for doing that. And just a few things, and I'm going to turn it over because when she got her Employee of the Month for Pauma, it was a different principal that introduced her. So I want to give her new principal, who she's known for quite a few years, a chance to talk about her. But just what I would say is that, going down there and watching Libby, actually when we went down there, I'm going to show a picture later, she had her kids out playing on this snow thing, and Mark and I actually jumped in there and had a race with a snow sled. I won. But just watching her kids and how much fun they have when you go into her classroom, it just really one of our outstanding teachers. And in our room, when we picked the Employee of the Year, everybody in there was like, wow, Libby's going to be perfect. So with that, Libby, congratulations. Thanks for everything you do. And I'm going to let Sarah say a few words about you, okay?
All right. So I will say that since I've known Libby for a while now, I was a little worried I'd get up here and cry, but since some people have paved the way for me tonight, I'm actually less nervous, and I think I might make it. I just want to say thank you, Superintendent McCowan, School Board, and Cabinet, for allowing us to recognize this outstanding teacher. I'm so honored to be able to speak about Libby tonight. When Ron told me just a slight bit before Libby knew, I honestly just tears came to my eye instantly. Libby joined our school district 12 years ago, as Ron had talked about, as a duty supervisor, and she was amazing out on the playground. I mean, just got those kids in shape. She was kind, she was firm, she was everything that they loved, and she really just enjoyed her time with them. She shortly after that became an aide for Ms. Schimmer, who's in the room tonight, and worked with her students and proved right away that she was an incredibly dedicated employee, and not only dedicated, but just highly effective. And it didn't matter if, we're at Pauma, TK through 8th grade. If it was a 5-year-old in front of her or a 13-year-old in front of her, she just connects and she teaches, and it's who she is. So luckily, we had a little change in careers after some schooling, and she decides to be a teacher. Fortunate for Pauma, she used that CSEA grant like Ron was talking about, and once she was done with her schooling, she entered the teaching credentialing program, and luckily, again, she ended up at Pauma. She just couldn't leave us, and for that, we are just incredibly fortunate. And I've had this good luck of being a part of Libby's career since she started, and seeing her grow as an educator, whether that was when she was student teaching in my 1st and 2nd grade combo class, or watching her adapt to the 2020 pandemic and shutdown, which was her very first year of teaching. And it was fun when I would hop in as an intervention teacher, and Libby would have on these crazy hats, funky outfits, just to do anything to keep these 5-year-olds entertained on Zoom. So it's been, no matter what she does, she has just continued to grow and be an amazing teacher. In her classroom, she builds really strong relationships with her kids and her families. She's incredibly creative, as you all, as her family, know. By the way, she brought this whole crew. And she is not only just creative and fun, but she has this way to get 4- and 5-year-olds to learn really tough academic tasks. And I'll walk in there, and it's one of the best behaved classes on campus. She has them just focused. It's incredible. And then, of course, we have lots of fun, too. Over the past 5 years, Libby has just done exceptional work with our TK and K students, but it's not just our students that are lucky, it's our staff as well. This might be when I cry. Okay, she's my special lady. Miss Nolan's accolades go way beyond the classroom. She is just an incredible support to our staff. She's a member of our site leadership team, our social committee. She is an ed tech rep. She is a site rep for the Valley Center-Pauma Educators Association. She is a buddy teacher to our new teacher and of course, a buddy teacher to all of our veterans as well. I've had to stop her from being on other committees, literally like, no, I cannot let you do this. You have too many committees. So she's just incredible in that way. She pops in anytime someone needs help, whether it's me running around campus doing something, she pulls out of my hand and takes it over, and she does that for her colleagues as well. She continues to just be a positive and energizing force on our campus every single day. And we are so incredibly grateful and fortunate for her. She really, truly inspires us all. So I just want to thank you all for recognizing that and for celebrating this incredible teacher. And we are just all so very proud of her and so fortunate that she chose to be a Bobcat, and she's still a Bobcat and will always be a Bobcat.
I can reread it. Okay, I'm nervous, so we'll go fast. Good evening, members of the board, family, friends, and community members. In education, we're taught as teachers that in order to help a student succeed, we need to help them create a strong foundation. That strong foundation will then hold their pillars of success as they continue to thrive and succeed, creating a stronger and higher building to their successes. My foundation and pillars have grown and changed throughout my life. When I was told that I had to make a speech tonight, I panicked, and still am, and thought of many things that I could say. Then I realized that I have my own foundation and pillars that have helped me get to where I am. My foundation is never wavering, always has my back, comes in full force, and supports me in all of my endeavors. My foundation is my family. They're all right there, well, most of them. Thank you for supporting me in all my adventures, big and small, jumping in to set up classrooms, build furniture, or cut out what seems like endless paper projects, especially my first year. Mom, thank you for being my #1 cheerleader and jumping in whenever I need an idea for the classroom. Dad, thanks for endless support and listening ear. To my pillars, which there are many, but I'll only name a few, to the classified staff that have been there from day one, when I started as an aide in duty. Some of them aren't here. Rick, who's watching? Thanks for always answering. I'll be right there whenever I ask for something, and for always helping. Jennifer, for watching my littles both inside and out. And Vermelda, my constant partner, you're stuck with me now. Thank you for embracing my highly optimistic kindergarten craft ideas in the classroom and being my sounding board. My coworkers, my Pauma family that are here and now at other sites. In one way or another, you've helped me grow. Know that I've taken a part of you into my teaching. Hearing your ideas, listening to your suggestions, helping me when I was stuck, or just listening when I had a moment that I just needed to talk it out. My principals, 2 of which are here today, you don't know the impact that you've had on this teacher. Miss Osugi, you have watched me grow for so many years, first as a counselor in middle school, then as a principal when I became a Bobcat. And no matter what, you'll always be a friend. Your support for your staff is amazing. Mrs. Songer, you graciously accepted me as a student teacher when I chased you down after your lunch one day. You've shown me what a strong and passionate teacher and leader can do. To both of you, thank you for embracing me, my occasional crazy ideas, lifting me up, always asking if I need anything or how I'm doing, and for just being amazing mentors. Miss Shimmer. You never pictured this moment when I started, did we? When you are an amazing mentor, listener, caring person, confidant, and friend. You are more than I could have asked for in a coworker. Thank you for taking me under your wing and for always being there for me. Thank you, VCPUSD, Pauma School students and staff, and to everybody for having faith in me. Thank you.
I just would like to say how proud we are of you, Libby, and the great success story. This is what it's about, going and becoming Teacher of the Year. And your students in Pauma and staff are both so blessed to have you, have your strong, courageous, but yet engaging, fun, I want to go to your class, and just enlightening teacher that encourages students and is about, number one, the students. So thank you so much and congratulations.
And so we're going to take a break here in just a few seconds, and then we're going to take a board picture up here with Mary, and then we'll have a few minutes for people to come up and say hi to Mary and everything, because I know you guys took time out of your evening and would love to say hi to her. So, but the one thing I want to mention before we go to break, and trying to be respectful of Dr. Mulford, but you know, one of the great leaders that I've worked under is Dr. Mulford, and most people out here know who he is, and he was a great man at shaping our district. And so he passed away a week or so ago, and just want to mention that, but at the same time, you know, his wishes were that we would think good thoughts of him. And so as we get ready to go to the break here, I think one of the things is what Ann had told me that Dr. Mulford would enjoy the most is that people that knew him would have nice thoughts about him and their interactions with him. So if you can think about that as we go into our break here, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you all for coming, and we're going to take a 5-minute break now and come and with Nancy.
So we'll get everybody at the table, actually. Let's get together right here with Mary, and we'll take a few pictures, okay?
Okay. Tommy, thank you. Love ya, buddy.
So you'll just start and go.
Right
If
here.
there's any request to address the board, I'll say no, and
Okay.
then just go right ahead.
We're gonna come back from our recess.
Boy, the crowd got small quite a bit, didn't it?
Yeah. Everybody
Yeah.
left us.
Oh,
Aw,
I think Bob's going to throw us a barbecue.
yeah. Okay. And are there any requests to address the board at this time?
All the requests to address the board was during Mary Polito's honoring time, so we're ready to move on from there.
Okay, great, thank you. We will move forward to our consent agenda. And,
President Stroh,
yes?
this month it was my job to review the purchase orders. They appear to be in order, and I so move that we approve the consent agenda along with the updated personnel list.
Okay, thank you very much. And so, do I have a second?
I'll second.
And any discussion regarding this? Any questions, anything? Being none, let's vote. Member Benjamin,
Aye.
Caputo,
Aye.
Kolb Senior, Polito, and Member Stroh votes aye. And we're going to move right now into our superintendent's division and Superintendent McCowan.
Well, thank you, Board President Stroh. We have a couple of things here. We usually share times that we get around out the district. This was when we went down to let Libby Nolan know she was Teacher of the Year. Nancy put this in, and so I let her keep it. It is a video of Snow Day down at Pauma, and I'll let that play. And that's Mr. Hellwood and I racing down the snowbank. I do believe I edged him out at the very end of that
I don't know.
race.
Photo finish. I'm not sure about that.
Here they come, here they come. What do you say? Whoa.
I believe my long legs actually are ahead of you, just so you know.
Toes go to the, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, watching the kids play in the snow was a great time down there. Something else that's happened this week here at our primary school, the B school, with Mrs. Veronica Rees as the principal there, did and I hope I pronounce this, Roll-a-Palooza, the made-up term, for a little activity they did. And a lot of the board knows that we're doing the PBIS training, which really is a way to make student discipline, or I shouldn't say discipline, but more student expectations school-wide very well known to the students and the staff, so there's no confusion, and really to make it easier on students. And so what you're seeing here, these are kindergarten students that are walking around with a passport. And what they needed to do was go to these different areas on campus, for instance, the lunch area. And in the lunch area, they'd get their passport signed, and then they would go over what are the rules of the lunch area and how is that applied in the lunch area and then the playground. And so they made their way all around campus, and really they just had a whole lot of fun. And it's a way to take the school-wide expectations and really embed them into with the students in a way that's fun. And this happens at all grade levels throughout our district. Obviously, they probably don't do the same thing with high school kids as we did with our kindergartners, but the kindergartners had a whole lot of fun. And as Mr. Hellwood put it, they looked up to Mrs. Ruiz as if she was definitely the queen bee when she was giving them the rules. Also at the same school today, we had neighborhood health, and just wanted to give you a real picture of this. This is a neighborhood health dental screenings, and you can see there's a student there getting ready to be seen by a dentist. It's something that we can offer our students and into our community, which we're very proud to do. So with that, we're going to move into the next item, and that's going to be Mr. Dale Scott, and I'll let Julie introduce him, and then we'll go from there.
And Mr. Dale Scott is he was our voter survey getter and the results, and going to give the presentation on those results. And thank you very much, Dale, for being here, and I know all the wealth of hard work that you guys did to get these results. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just quickly remind you why I'm here, which is we actually serve as the district's financial advisor, and in that you are considering getting on the ballot in November of 2024 to ask the voters to pass a general obligation bond. Our firm went out and surveyed voters in the community, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. We have done these surveys, and I have made these presentations to districts from the Mexican border to the Oregon border. And I have very rarely started a survey by saying this, which is, I don't know what you're doing, but you are doing something very right. This is really a very, very positive survey. Usually we see lots of things that are positive, but in this case, it is predominantly good news. If we can go to page 2. This, just by way of background, this is sort of why we are thinking about the November 24 ballot. This is the voter turnout on the left-hand side. I think I showed you this slide already once. You can see the blue, which are the presidential elections, and the blue is the turnout in, for example, the November 2020, which is the third from the right. There was over 80% in San Diego County in 2020. Compare that to the gubernatorial election in November of 22, farthest to the right, which was less than 60%. The reason this is important is it has been a strong fact now for 20 years that school bonds on a presidential election date have a much better chance of success. We have 20 plus years of that data. Most of that has to do with voter turnout. If we can go to the next slide, please, on the next slide. This survey, and I want to make sure that you understand, this survey was not a survey of your parents. It is a survey of voters in the community. And in fact, if they were contacted and they were asked, do you plan on voting in the next election in November of 24? And if they said no, then they were excluded. So we're only talking to voters. Most of this was done through either cell phones or landlines. Those that, in order to increase the size, there were also some voters that were contacted through text and email to get them to take the survey online. Margin of error, you see that at the bottom, 6.75, 6.7. What that means is, it's 6.7%. When I say, well, it's a 70% probability, that's 70% plus or minus 6.7. So just keep that in mind as we're looking at this data. The way this survey works is once the person is on the phone, they get a few questions. Most of them are sort of demographic questions and attitudinal questions to give them a little bit, make sure they know we're not trying to get their PIN account or their password. And then we're going to ask them right off the top, we would read them what we think that ballot language is going to look like, which is frankly the way many people vote. They vote by reading the ballot and nothing else. So that's what we're trying to replicate. But I do want to show you some of the data about who is taking this survey. Let's go to the next page. We asked the question, do you now have, or have you ever had, children or grandchildren who attended or are now attending a school in the Valley Center-Pauma Unified School District? Now remember, we're talking to voters. 54% said no. 54%. In other words, over half of the voters that vote in these elections don't really have any idea what you do, except what they read in the paper, what they hear from their friends, if they're here at church, wherever. So keep that in mind. Now you can spin that in a good way too. That may be that younger people are coming to the community that haven't had children yet, or older people who have raised their children elsewhere are coming here to retire. So there's a positive spin on this. But in terms of understanding what the product is, it is less than half. The next slide, too. Then we asked, what is the main way you receive information about the district? And this is also amazing. As I would expect, about a quarter say friends, family, and district employees, so word of mouth. That makes sense. Then we have this periodical or newspaper called the Roadrunner. Seems to be pretty important in this town. 32%, so that's how they get their information. And then you have almost, not quite a third, but close to a third of people saying they get somehow from the district communications, district social media, and then the rest are really people saying, any variety of sources. So I think it's very important. Slide 7, please. We asked them, the voters that we're talking to, and this I think is a really important one. Do you agree or disagree? Valley Center-Pauma Public Schools are our community's most important asset and should be our #1 priority, 78%. There's probably not a lot of questions you could ask all of your voters, any of your voters, and 78% of them would agree on an answer. But in this, they see the importance of the schools. And then the next slide, do you agree or disagree? Quality schools increase property values, 87%. So they've got it figured out. Okay, so I'm going to take you to before I take you to the next slide, let me explain what we did here. We did what was called, remember I said we're going to read them the ballot language. Those 75 words, you've already all voted on these in the past from the state propositions, 75 words, it's a question. We did what was called a split sample, meaning we asked half of the people the question one way and half of the people the question the other way. And the difference was, the only difference was that in the first one, we did not mention the school names. We just said Valley Center-Pauma Unified School District. In the second one, which I'll show you in a second, we actually listed the school names. So let's see what happened. Let's go to page 10. This first one, as you can see at the top, it says without school names. What happens was they read them the ballot measure, and then if the person says yes, they're a yes. If no, they're a no. If they say, I don't know, then they press them with a second question and say, well, would you be leaning yes or leaning no? And there you see it, and then we take those two together. So to pass a school bond takes 55%. We take the 57% yes, the 10% lean yes, and you have 67%. Very strong. Remember, this is without the school names. Without the school names. Now, in every survey that I've done where we have split this question with school names and not school names, the school names does better. Not here, which is strange. Let's go to the next page, page 11. You can see in the middle, and I'll go through this ballot language in just a second, but in the middle of this language, you can see where it says, at Valley Center Primary, Lilac, Pauma Elementary, blah, 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 and lists all the schools. It does well. It does about 60%, close to 60%. It just doesn't do as well as the last one. And I don't know exactly what to make of this. I think it has something to do that you have a very strong brand. That's the only thing I can think of. That the brand Valley, see, in most districts where we do this, the school district name doesn't mean anything to the voters. So we just did one, for example, in a community at a school district called the Cabrillo Unified School District, which is in San Mateo County. Well, there is no Cabrillo. There's no town of Cabrillo. There's a Cabrillo High School, but there's all these little schools spread out in this larger district. And when we read them Cabrillo Unified School District, they don't know what that is, but they know what their neighborhood school is. This seems to be the opposite. They know what Valley Center School District is. The schools themselves seem to make less of an impression. Now, the other thing let's go back one page if we could. I want to point out on this ballot language is you can see we start out with a statement with funds that cannot be taken by the state and spent elsewhere. Then it turns into a question, Shell Valley Center. Then we list a couple projects. These are not limiting you. These are the projects. I think of it almost like a teaser for a movie. This is kind of what you're going to, if we can go to page 10, please. This is kind of what you're going to do, a description. It's not the entire list. And then if you go about halfway down, you can see where it says, be approved, authorizing $84.6 million of bonds, and there's a lot of legal gobbledygook. That is all required by law. We only have about 50 to 60% of those 75 words that we can work with. So keep that in mind. So what we're gonna do now, as we've asked them this question, we've got the base, now we're gonna give them more information regarding the projects, regarding the tax rate, regarding attitudinal questions, and we're trying to figure out what do they like, what do they not like, what works, what doesn't work, what is important to them as a voter. And that will also help us craft that final language that best describes what you're going to do. So if we can turn to page 13, and I'm not going to go over all of these, I promise, I promise. The first is we look at specific projects. Now, this project list was developed through an interview with your superintendent and the rest of your staff. The questions were asked randomly, so there's not sort of an order where people get tired at the end. They're just mixed up. Each person gets it in a different order, but the purpose is here. We've put them in the order of what comes to the top, and you can see, I'll just take the top 5. So we're saying if you knew, for example, that these funds would be used to expand career training facilities. We have the dark blue, which is more likely. I would be more likely to vote for this if I knew that these funds would be used to expand training facilities. That comes in at roughly 87% of the voters. Then you have some voters that say, well, it wouldn't really make a difference to me, and we have to kind of figure out, well, is that a yes voter or is that a no voter? So you said the 2 blues there, dark blue and light blue, those are the people that are positive. Top 5, expand career training facilities, improve student safety and school security, renovate and modernize science labs and classrooms, expand STEAM classrooms, and expand special education facilities. The reality is, this list goes 3 or 4 pages. And there are very few projects that do not meet that 55% test. In fact, there are none, I can see here. And the black line is the 55%. Now, when we get down to renovate and add athletic fields and courts, you're still over 55%. That's on page 16. Let's go to page 16 and we'll see the kind of stuff that doesn't work. I mean, this works, it just doesn't work as well. Add an all-purpose track, 65%. Renovate and add athletic fields and courts, 63%. So still strong. I mean, there would be many districts that would be thrilled with these kind of results as their top 5. And these are your bottom 5. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to turn to taxpayer protections, because we want to build taxpayer protections into as well and make sure they understand. We don't ask that many of these. We only ask 4 questions. Page 18, please. These 2 at the top, if you knew that there would be full public disclosure required of how the funds are spent, and if you knew that the funds had to be spent locally and could not be taken by the state and spent elsewhere. We've seen those over the last 4 or 5 years continue to rise up in popularity. And it's an obvious reasons why, because of COVID and everything that's happened in the state in the last 4 or 5 years. These get close to 90% of the voters. It's amazing. If you knew that these funds would all be spent locally and couldn't be taken by the state and spent elsewhere, 89% of the voters say they'd be more likely to vote for it. Remarkable. Let's go to the next page. Tax rate sensitivity. Under California state law, we have to tell the voters an estimate of what it will cost them based on the rate against their assessed valuation, their property value. And we can give them that number either as a dollar per $100,000 of assessed valuation, or we could give it to them as a cents per $100 of assessed valuation. It's the same number, by the way. It's just how you state it. So you can see the numbers here that work, in your case, were all dollars. I didn't give you all of them, I only gave you the dollar numbers. And as the dollar amount goes up, the popularity goes down, as you would expect. But still, even though we're seeing at less than $59, and you look down at the bottom, you only have 30% of the people say, I'm still willing to pay for this at $59. That goes way down. That doesn't mean you can't set that tax rate at $59. It's just not an argument that resonates with people. Everything else in this survey is so strong that you'll see at the end, okay, they don't like that part, but they like everything else. So, once we've told them the projects, we've told them the tax rate, we've told them some of the taxpayer protections, we go back, if I can go to page 22, we go back and we say, now do you want to change your vote? Now remember, we asked this split, so half of the people got the name of just the school district, half of the people got the name of the school district with the schools themselves. This first one on page 22 is for those that only got the school district name. Before information, they were at 67%. After information, they were at 77%. Yes. Pretty good. Remember, it takes 55%. The page 23, where the school names were added in, not quite as good. They ended up at 60%. There wasn't as much movement here. I can't really tell you why that has such an effect. It has something also to do, remember, it's not a perfect system. We have a 6%, 12% swing in this, so the reality is it's somewhere in the middle there. That number is somewhere in the middle. Okay, I am going to transition to where we go from here, but I'm going to stop for any questions that the board might have regarding the survey, the results, the methodology, et cetera, et cetera.
Questions now? Okay. Yes? Is now the time? Yes. Cool. First of all, thank you. That's very, super thorough. You answered most of my questions. Just kind of a couple thoughts, not necessarily questions, but if over half of the people that live here don't have kids and grandkids in the district, then in my mind it kind of makes sense that they don't even know the names of the schools or really care about the names of the individual schools. It's really just the district in general. And also kind of one of my hesitations even thinking about doing a bond, I hate taxes, but also so many families in our district either homeschool or charter school in Escondido or elsewhere, and so how or why would they want to volunteer paying taxes for school in our district where their kids aren't at? Well, if, according to these numbers, if over half of the people, the registered voters in our town, don't even have any kids, and then really that's kind of a moot point, which is kind of encouraging to me. I hadn't really thought about that. So.
Yeah, and the number that jumps out is that they understand that quality schools improve school housing values. So
okay.
It's not so much, and this is very common in more fiscally conservative districts.
Okay.
It's not so much about creating the new school and the new shiny objects and all the great things you're going to get. It's about what is it going to do for the community and what is it going to do for my family. And I think that resonates here.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
There we go. Dale, I'd like to ask you a question. I know we've talked about this before, but as I was looking at this, I came up with another question. You refer a lot of times to how surveys normally look. So looking at the page where we talk about the cost going from $22 per 100,000 all the way down to $59, and you can see each time the money amount goes up, there's more or less yes votes. How does that compare with other communities? I mean, do you see that normally in your polling?
If we can go back to that, that's page 20.
20, yeah.
No. What I usually see is no tax rate works.
Oh.
Really, no tax rate works. And this is why I find the polling sometimes interesting when I'm listening to other pollsters, and they say, well, this has a tax rate sensitivity, and we've got to really, bring this amount down so the tax rate comes down. But I know from the surveys I've seen, we often pass these bonds and no tax rate worked. Because just like what you just said, I don't like paying taxes. Is this going to make you more likely to vote for it if you know it's going to cost you $20 per $100,000? No. Are you for it? Yes. Okay, I don't think that's a contradiction. I think the person's being honest on this.
Yeah, I just want to add in on what you said about the value. One of the things that I hear with new community members is the first thing a lot of community members that are coming in with kids, the first thing they look at is, how's the school district? Like that. Yeah. That is one of the main things that I've heard with some of the newer community members. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have a question too. The number that you were able to get it says 213 for our community. Is that an average percentage, or is that low? That seems low to me, that only 213. But
yeah, it's not.
I don't know.
No, that's a good question. It's an excellent question. We shoot to get 300.
Okay.
In a very large community, I mean, we can do a survey for a district that might have 250,000 voters. We'll still get 400. Not that we'll get 400, we'll shoot for 400.
Right.
And that will give us enough of what we need. It would have been, and that's why you see that number at 6.7%. That should have been, if we had it at 300 or 400, it would have been less than 5%. So yes, I would have liked to have had more. I think that is also something you see in the more conservative communities, that it's a little harder to get people on the phone to talk about to take a survey.
Okay.
I was really impressed with the 9% landline.
With the what?
It's 9% landline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Landline.
Yeah, well, that tells you something about the age of your voting base. So.
Well, and within our schools, you said they did the schools. Did they do the specific schools like Lilac, Valley Center Elementary?
They just named every school in the ballot language.
Okay.
Every school.
Oh, they just named them and then said,
Right.
It's not like Lilac had
Right.
100 and somebody else had 25. No.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Let's go to page 25, because I want to discuss what happens from here. Really, the next big piece of the puzzle is for the board to then pass a resolution, if that's the way you want to go, asking the county to place this on the ballot for November. There's some work that also has to be done with the San Diego County Taxpayers Association, obviously, but that's not legally required. What is legally required is that the resolution be passed by the board by a 2/3 majority, meaning it require at least 4 votes out of 5 in order to pass the resolution. If that's the desire of the board, I would like to get direction tonight. We don't need a vote, just direction. Yes, begin to work with staff, begin to bring a survey, not a survey, begin to bring a resolution back to us sometime before the deadline, which is generally in June, July of this coming year. After that's done, we would work with the district to put information out to voters and to put together what's called an argument in favor and get signatures in favor. And that's, I think, where we would stop. I think giving people information to this, getting the right people to endorse it, I'm not sure you would have to do much more than that, frankly.
Okay.
And is that what your company helps with
Yeah.
through that process?
Correct.
Okay, so if we do approve to go for a bond, you guys help with PR or kind of marketing to get it on the ballot? Or like, how much do you guys do versus then we need to hire other companies to do, or?
Yeah. So there's a fork in the road after you pass the resolution. The fork in the road is some districts do sort of what you just discussed, which is they do what I call an advocacy campaign. An advocacy campaign, which you can't do, the district can't do, you can't spend any money on it, is what you would see vote yes on Measure V. mail, walks, whatever you want to do. I'll come back to that. The second type is to do what I call an information campaign. And an information campaign is done by the district. And that's when you send out, and yes, we assist in that, you send out information to registered voters, giving them the facts. This is what we're going to do with the money. This is what the tax rate's going to be. This is how long it's going to be on your tax bill. Generally, getting them to educate.
And you do help with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've actually run campaigns too in some districts. In a presidential election, we very rarely suggest an advocacy campaign because the ability to raise enough money, we can't spend district money on this. Remember, you have to go out and raise money to fund that advocacy campaign. That's a lot of money in order to adequately communicate with a very large number of voters. Given these numbers, and we can change our mind as you get deeper into it, or if there's somebody in the community that really wants to be involved in it, then you can certainly go that road. But right now, I would say, the biggest important piece of the puzzle is making sure that ballot language is perfect, getting the Taxpayer Association to endorse it, getting the right people to endorse it in the argument section of the ballot, and getting information out to the voters.
Okay, thank you.
So what we're looking for tonight, as far as for guidance from the board, we started this out when we first decided, hey, let's look at it, and that's when we hired Mr. Dale Scott and his company to come in. Now we're at the point where we've got some good information here, and I love the way that Ms. Dale presented it to us. I think it's very understandable. I think it's very informative for us. And now we just want direction from the board if you would like us to continue down that path of bringing a resolution for an actual bond to be put on the November ballot.
I mean, I would,
Yeah.
I just put my cards on the table. Yes, I don't like taxes, but at the same time, realizing the reality is our school facilities are old, very old. They do need to be not only repaired, but we need new stuff in place for new programs. And even going through, these are questions I didn't even think about, so detailed on what to spend the money on specifically. And so if we do need to do this stuff at some point, in my mind, we'd be crazy not to do it right now with these numbers as favorable as they are. So I say go for it. Yeah.
I agree.
Well, there's one other thing I'd like to add. I didn't even think of it until you just mentioned it, because I'm looking at, you were on our long-term facilities plan committee, which included community members and teachers, classified people, administrators, and 2 board members. The things that were surveyed, the different areas we'd like to spend this money, they weren't just something that we came up with. Those were things that we actually went through a year-long process with another company to look at our facilities, what needs to be repaired, what do we need to do to really give our students the best opportunities at school. Then we took that information, got together with that committee, and that was a year-long process that met 4 times during that year, and that's where we came up with those things. So just so everybody, I think that's really important. These weren't things that we just thought of. These things that actually came out of a survey of our facilities and then to the community and with faculty members and board members. So I think what I'm hearing is that we'll work with Dale and hopefully bring you something back as a resolution. I would assume sometime between February and March, or right in that window. With that.
Yeah, it might be a little later than that, but we'll get it calendared with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone feel opposed to that?
No, and I'm glad that Superintendent McCowan said that, because Paul and I were on that committee. That was a year-long, and that's exactly what all the community members, staff, everybody came up with, is what's here.
Yeah.
So you got to have the money to do it, and if the presidential election is the timing-wise, it sounds like everything lines up there, and your results that you've gotten so far, I think I would be for it.
Yeah.
So do we want to give
We'll
you
move
direction?
forward. No, that's all we
To
need.
come back.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down and giving a presentation.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much. And at this time, the board will consider approving the method of filing the board vacancy, the board vacancy of member Polito, who is resigning her position effective January 18th, 2024, tonight, following adjournment of the January 18, 2024 meeting. And I'll move that on to
Perfect, thank you.
Superintendent McCowan.
Board President Stroh. So when an opening like this happens, the first thing that I did as Mary and I worked through the planning of this was contact the county office. The county office then turns us over to legal, and then we look at what's the process for replacing a board member. So there's really two avenues we can go. One would be a special election, and when you do a special election, what you end up doing is you kind of pay for that election, and they can run anywhere between $200,000 and $400,000. We are really fortunate in the situation of the timing, because the other avenue you can go through is to have a provisional appointment. And that's the process where the board would have pretty much hold a interviews and then appoint a board member. So what I've done is worked with our administrative team along with the county. This is kind of a timeline of what a provisional appointment would look like. And the reason I'm suggesting or recommending to the board the provisional appointment, of course, has one to do with the cost, and the other thing that has to do with when we look at this is the timing of it all. So what ends up happening is as soon as we get the notification, which will kick in at midnight tonight, that Mary Polito has resigned from the board, we have 60 days to find a new board member. So if we do the provisional appointment, what will happen is tomorrow afternoon we'll put applications out on the internet and also have them available at the office, and then also advertise that in the Roadrunner. We'll do it on our social media. In other words, we'll get the message out there. And people will then look at the application. They'll have numbers to call if they'd like to call myself or anybody else. They'll be welcome to do that. Also, we are in district areas now. It's not a general election. So this is board member area 5. And what's really great is as you get the application, and it'll be posted on our webpage and everything, you can click and it will take you to our district area map in Google, and you can actually put your address in there and make sure that your address falls in district area 5. So once you find that out, you know you're in the right place, then there's an application process. Those will be due on February 2nd, and they'll come into my office. What we'll do then is I'll work with the board president. I will plan a meeting. I should probably read that. Application deadline will be 3 p.m. on the 2nd. To be announced, we will take all the applicants, have them come into the district office. This is real similar to what we do in a general election. When people say they're going to run for the board, they come in. I will sit down with them. Our cabinet will sit down. They'll meet the rest of the administrative team at the district office. And then we go through each aspect of the district and really what the work of the district is. And, a lot of people, even myself as a site administrator, didn't realize till I became superintendent how many different businesses we have to run when it comes to child nutrition, comes to, maintenance, operations, et cetera. So we explain all that to the prospective board member, also go over a little bit of the role of a board member. So it's a really nice sit-down meeting. At that point, the person will say, yeah, I'm still interested in it. We'll have a special board meeting, which we have scheduled up there for February 27th. At this special board meeting, we will get a chance as a school board to hold interviews. And so anybody who's an applicant would come in here. It is a public meeting, so there is no discussion of applicants and strengths and weaknesses in any kind of a closed meeting. It is all done in public. Each candidate would come up, and we would probably ask around 8 to 10 questions. The board then, after everybody's interviewed, will bring all the candidates back in. They'll deliberate over different candidates, and at the end of the night, we will choose, or you, the board, will choose a new candidate, and then we'll swear them into the board. And on February 27th is our timeline to have a new board member sitting in that seat. So that's kind of the way it works out. This is a tentative timeline that I think is pretty accurate. The good thing about this is it's not an additional cost to our community. This person will then be on the school board from February 27th until the presidential elections in November. At that time, that seat will open up. The candidate, or actually the new board member, is welcome to run, but then they would be open to a general election. That's one of the reasons that I also don't want us to do the general or an election process because the whole community, or not the whole community, but District 5, that whole district's going to get a chance to vote in November. It just wouldn't make sense to expend those kind of
that much money.
finances when we're going to have that general election. So this is the recommendation that I'd like to make to our school board. And yeah, I'll take any questions or anything on that.
Okay, and we need to vote on that.
You do?
Right. Are there any questions, because we need to have a motion and vote?
No, that makes sense. I'll so move for a motion to move forward with that
Okay.
plan for appointment.
Plan, okay. And
I'll
as-
second. I'll
Any
second.
further discussion? I think that's a great plan and moving forward and wise, fiscally wise. And so we will vote. Member Benjamin?
Aye.
Member Caputo?
Aye.
Member Kolb Senior? And Member Polito? And Member Stroh votes aye. Moving on, finally, are you awake here, Mark? To Educational Services, California School Dashboard, and a presentation by our Assistant Superintendent, Mark Halewood, please. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, President Stroh, Superintendent McCowan, members of the board. Tonight I'd like to provide you with an overview of data reported on the California School Dashboard regarding our school districts. This is based on measures and performance for the 22-23 school year, so last school year, that were published on this California Department of Education website known as the California School Dashboard, made public on December 15th. For those of you who maybe remember, maybe just for some review, the California School Dashboard is an online tool to help communities across the state access important information about kindergarten through grade 12 schools and districts. The 23 dashboard and the data I'm going to kind of overview tonight resumes the California accountability system based on comparison of performance between school years compared to last year when it was first resumed, which was done at status level only. And as we go, that'll kind of be clear. When we look at comparison over school years, this moves the dashboard back to a color system based on both performance and progress or decline from the previous school year. Our district, schools, and student groups receive performance colors on the dashboard, which are blue, green, yellow, orange, and red, where blue indicates the highest level of performance and red indicates the lowest level of performance. The CDE does guide us when they release this information that the data presented establishes a measure for which performance and future improvements can be gauged and should be used in conjunction with other local data on student performance and progress, such as our own progress reports, student work, teacher feedback, community feedback. It is not designed to be the only measure of performance for our district. The combination of state and local district data provides an appropriate picture of strengths as well as areas of opportunity and needed growth for our district, school sites, and students. The dashboard addresses 7 state measures to allow from comparisons across schools and districts throughout the state of California, and those measures are shown here in the kind of top half in the green box. I won't go through them in detail, but they are chronic absenteeism, suspension rates, English learner progress, graduation rates, college and career readiness, which for this 23 report is actually measured at status, so I'll go into more details about that. And then the 2 academic performance measures that we've reviewed previously, which is the state assessments in English language arts and mathematics. Results are presented for all district schools and defined student groups, such as racial and ethnic groups, low-income students, English learners, homeless, foster youth, and students with disabilities. Shown here in the blue box is they're known as our local indicators. And these are measures that we report to the California Department of Education. And they're based on self-reflection that our district engages in, tools, climate surveys, many of the indicators and information that is part of our LCAP, Local Control and Accountability Plan. We meet standards by reporting to the California Department of Education that we have engaged in that process. So it is not a measure of the process, that's part of what is in the LCAP. So here you can see that because we have reported that we engaged in that process to the California Department of Education, we have a report of standard met for all local indicators. When looking at academic performance for our school districts on the state measures, we see small increases in performance in English language arts and mathematics compared to the previous school year. This suggests that we're moving in the correct direction, but overall performance is still low and continues to be an area of focus for our district, an area that we're currently putting a lot of work in and will continue to move those measures forward. Using both state report and local information, these are some of the things we're doing in this area. We want to get that information to our teachers so that we can put kind of tiered responses in place to meet student needs in the areas of language arts and mathematics in all grade levels. Teachers are engaging each other in the PLC process, focusing on cycles of improvement, looking at student work, looking at assessment analysis so that they can really determine what are the needs they need to address so that when students do go into taking these state assessments in the spring, they're prepared, confident, and ready. We also use things such as, they're called interim assessments provided by the California Department of Education. And this is a way for students to see the question types, see different examples. I've heard one of my colleagues refer to this as kind of like, preparing a student for the driving test. You don't just send them to the test. You do behind the wheel training, you do practice, you do these things first, so that when it does come time for that driving test, they're successful and confident. The next measure, English learner progress, did see a decline from our very high rate in 21-22. So that has declined to 45.9. Now, that is not a poor level of performance. Last time I showed you this data, we were actually the highest, one of the highest or the highest in the county in English learner progress. So this is a bit of a return to norm. Although we definitely want to continue to move forward, the 45.9% is still something that we're proud of, that our English learners are moving forward in their English proficiency. The College and Career Indicator, as I mentioned earlier, is being resumed this year based on status only. So there is no measure from the previous year. What that means is that this is only based on last year's data. Our performance level, reported by the California Department of Education, was low. As we've gone through preparation, we have learned that aspects of our local data was not reported by the California Department of Education on this dashboard. So working with our data team, working with the county, we're looking at making sure that we understand, A, why that occurred, and then also what would be an appropriate, what is our actual data, even though the dashboard data is unfortunately not an accurate picture. So we're working on that right now. We do expect that our performance will be closer to the 20% range. We estimate a 15 to 22% preparedness as of right now. Approximately 1/3 of our students are meeting A through G requirements. 1/5 of our students are meeting career technical education pathway requirements. So when you factor that in, we think we will see an increase. Overall though, our performance in this measure, even with that adjustment, is still lower than it should be, and it represents another area of focus for this school year moving into next school year, with a reassessment of our CTE programs, our career technical education programs, increase in supports for students who are taking AP tests, which we've done a lot of work with this year, and more motivators, more explanation and work as to how students can meet the A through G or UC CSU requirements for college entrance. Our district does see a decline, and this is the time where I say decline, and it's a good thing, just so everybody knows. So we see a decline in chronic absenteeism. I know, I was smiling when I said it, but this was a good one. So our chronic absenteeism declined from 41.3% to 37.9%. And so that's a positive that we see, working with families in our community around the importance of consistent attendance and communicating to identify and learn what the causes are so we can quickly respond to negative attendance patterns before they become chronic in nature, is something that we think is going well this year and was kind of a launching point for last year. So we think we're on the right path for improvement, and my expectation with this number will continue to decline, which is also something that is occurring throughout the state of California. For our graduation rate, we do have a high graduation rate in our district of 93.4%. That is, we see a very small decline from the previous year of a 1.2% decline, but it's still significantly higher than the state average of 86.4% and keeps us in the top range for San Diego County. Our suspension rate saw a significant drop from 6.5% to 3.9%. Again, that's a good thing. We see our commitment to holding students accountable for their behavior, but while working with them to keep them in school, keep them in classrooms, can return to learning as soon as possible, taking effect. So we're very happy that those numbers are going down, but not affecting our ability to hold students accountable. So we see the impacts of this shift with things like restorative practices, an alternative to suspension program, where students are receiving targeted behavioral intervention and support so they can return to that classroom setting immediately. I doubt you can even see the details of this, but the dashboard does provide us data for each school in our district. So here is kind of an overview of that shows kind of how our schools combined make up the performance of our district overall. We see the schools in our district perform very similar in academic performance, with significant increases in performance in language arts and math at Valley Center High School. In areas of engagement, climate, and conditions, we see suspension rates decreasing at the secondary level and staying at the low levels that they were already at our elementary schools. As I mentioned, graduation rate is high at Valley Center High School, and Oak Glen and Valley Center Prep are definitely moving their graduation rates forward, continuing to serve some of our district's highest need students as they move towards graduation. Kind of another way of looking at the same data would be to break it down by student groups. So here is an overview of that. Again, a lot of the data is very similar to when you look at us as a district overall. We see many of the same performance indicators that we see as a district and by our school sites across our student groups. Homeless students, students with disabilities, Native American students, we do see significant declines in things like suspension rates. We see some improvements in chronic absenteeism where those rates are also declining for those student groups. So the most important thing here is that us as a district and our school sites continue to go back to this data, review it, and look at how we're approaching the equity across our district related to how different student groups are performing. The approaches I mentioned are applicable to the needs of all students, and some of the strategies I mentioned earlier allow our staffs to specifically focus on those student groups with a higher level of need. Where it says NA and dashes, that means that that's either a metric that doesn't relate to that age level or group, or the number of students is not high enough to be publicly reported. Our district's performance overall, as I mentioned, has improved in many areas. English language arts, mathematics, chronic absenteeism, suspension, and we are committed to continuously assessing all of our programs and systems to further enhance our educational outcomes for all students and all student groups. Most groups saw improvement in state assessment, suspension, and chronic absenteeism. Some of those improvements were significant, some were much smaller, but definitely moving us in the right direction. We will continue to focus on areas such as chronic absenteeism, state assessments that, although I said there is improvement, we acknowledge that those are lower than where we want them to be, and lower for some specific student groups. All the data and reported measures that I've gone over come from the California School Dashboard website, which is public. And the information there is accessible to any member of the public, and then a kind of report version of what I presented tonight will be posted on our district website also for access by the public. So appreciate the time to go over the dashboard, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much for your great, thorough, honest report. Yes. Any questions? I did have something.
Well, I get to keep going, I believe, so.
Yeah, yeah, you do. You go to the LCAT. Well, I did have the career and college ready. So you kind of answer. I saw that, and then I think you kind of answered it. That the facts are all correct.
Yeah.
I wanted clarity on that.
We've seen this before. As the dashboard is resumed, the way that some of that data is processed and reported between districts and the California Department of Education, it has not gone back to what it was 5 years ago. So there's some communication issues that occur. There's, my opinion is when the California Department of Education sees that data is not there, they would contact us and say, hey, we need to review this. That is not, unfortunately, the way the process works. And I'm not placing any blame, but But it just shows us that, you know, we
Need to follow
need to be following through. We need to be making sure that we're reviewing the data and not just relying on this kind of outside agency to let us know.
Good.
The good part is we will get to put a note on the dashboard. We won't get to change the number, but we'll get to put a note so that when someone goes there, there'll be an explanation that this is not the accurate information for our district,
Yeah.
and that note can include the data as we believe it would be.
Oh, okay, good, because that's important.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
You're
And then on to LCAP.
Yes. So in addition to presenting on the dashboard, I'll also be presenting on the Local Control and Accountability Plan, also known as the LCAP. A requirement for this year is that we provide you, the members of the board, and the public with a mid-year report. So the presentation I'm going to give is a kind of an overview of what that mid-year report entails. It's not designed to present all of the information of this 50-page report. It's more of an overview, and it is a requirement for all schools in the state of California. So most of you would remember our LCAP is a 3-year district level plan that describes goals, actions, services, expenditures, all around this idea of supporting positive student outcomes and addressing state and local priorities for academics, behavior, attendance, all of these areas for our district. You know, one of the ways I like to think about it, and being the person who probably reads the LCAP the most in our district, I think it's an opportunity to share stories of how, what, and why we're doing things, and why we're choosing like these programs and trying to meet these needs and kind of where we are. So it's kind of a rich tapestry of what we're doing and who we are as a district. So in order to kind of review our LCAP, I think it's super important to always just take a moment to look at our learning community, know who is a part, how our schools are being made up. So here you can see an overview of student groups by ethnicity, but then also by identified groups such as English learners and some of the groups I mentioned. So that's the percent of enrollment based on the end of the 22-23 school year. For the most part, most of those numbers are being fairly consistent. We don't see a huge change in those percentages year to year, but we did see a small increase in socioeconomic disadvantaged students compared to the previous year. So this presentation for our mid-year report, like I said, kind of provides an overview of a much larger report that will be available. It includes progress on available outcomes from both the previous year and also those that are year to date. Actions are shown from our 23-24 LCAP with their current implementation level along with budgeted funds going into the beginning of the year and current available expenditures to date this year. So there's kind of those three areas, kind of the progress on outcomes, the actions and where we are in implementing them, and then the budgeted funds and expenditures to date. When we talk about metrics, expenditures, and implementation, this mid-year report is not able to report on all metrics and outcomes because some of them will be available at the end of this year. But we did include those that are available and as many as possible that can be reported year to date. Similarly, some outcome actions don't start necessarily at the beginning of the year, and we may have some that start in the month of January or February. So when we look at expenditures, you'll also note that our budgeted and current expended funds, we're looking to be about that halfway point, but some of these things, again, will continue. And so you'll see implementation levels of planned, partially implemented, and fully implemented for each area. So looking at our first LCAP goal, our LCAP goal is every student is actively engaged in learning, feels safe at school, and demonstrates good citizenship. So we have in our LCAP, we have a large grouping of actions and things that we say as a district that we're doing to move us forward in this goal area. Here is those that at the current point of preparing this report are fully implemented. So that would be staffing areas, different partnerships we have in place, and the transportation services we provide. Those that are partially implemented, a lot of these are either newer or things that continue as we go through the year, such as PBIS, social and emotional intervention curriculum, refinement of our multi-tiered system of supports, attendance monitoring and communication, and professional development and training. For this LCAP area, our total budgeted funds were $5,890,677, And our mid-year expenditures for this goal are $2,554,336. So again, kind of where you would expect. A lot of those staffing, this is staffing costs to date. So a lot of those budgeted funds are based on staffing. And so as we move through the year, the expenditures will continue to increase. Just to give one example from the actual report itself, here is a metric and action kind of broken down as to the way the mid-year report presents it. So we have our metric, which is student engagement measured by attendance. We have baseline data from the beginning of when this LCAP was put into place, such as in 2019 and 20, the chronic absenteeism and attendance rates listed there. And then we have where we are now when we look at our mid-year data. Our mid-year data can be data from the end of last year or year to date. So looking at last year, as we just reviewed on the dashboard, we have our chronic absenteeism data. And then we also have our attendance rate overall as a district as we closed out the 22-23 year. In addition, we're able to provide our year-to-date attendance, and that would go through this previous December, where, good news, our attendance rate has increased, and so we're at a 92.09% as of December, so we would expect to continue that, and hopefully by the end of this school year can remain above the 92% level, but significantly higher than the 89.76 from the end of last year. Looking at how that looks like related to an action, for example, in the LCAP, we have an action of counseling support, and that is fully implemented. The outcome would be that we do have full-time counselors in place throughout our district. And one of the roles those counselors play is connections with students. And we believe that that has an effect on attendance, suspension rates, things like that. So this kind of, you can kind of see how the action and the data kind of connect to each other. And then the budgeted funds and the expenditures related to that specific action as part of the goal overall. So we kind of chose goal 1 as our goal to kind of go into detail. So I won't read through every piece here, but here is goal 2. Every student receives high quality instruction, lead to academic achievement, physical fitness, successfully preparing them for college and career readiness. You can see a list of the actions that we as a district say are fully implemented. So the things that are in place and moving forward fully. Those that are partially implemented. So there's elements that are in place, but we continue to work with them as we move through the year. And here are, for LCAP, do some more partially implemented and then planned actions that will be done as we move through the second half of the year. And then same as for goal 1, we have our total funds budgeted and our mid-year expenditures. The note there is that some of the mid-year expenditures related to goal 2 were not able to be calculated at the time of reports, but overall, it's a pretty fair estimate of our mid-year expenditures for goal 2. Same for goal 3. Parents, guardians, and students are informed of timely district, school, and classroom information and have opportunities to provide input for decision making. This goal does not have as many actions as the other 2, as you can tell, but we have our fully implemented actions, and then we have our planned actions. The planned action, just to clarify, district-wide and school-based parent workshops, that many of these workshops take place throughout the year. This is specifically related to language in the LCAP where the district is supporting a specific set of parent workshops. And so those have planned, and actually the first one was in January. And then our last goal, which was our new goal that we added to our LCAP last year, which is goal 4, providing every VCPUSD student eligible for special education support and services with educational programs in their least restrictive environment that includes standards-aligned instruction enabling students to meet or exceed state standards. So this is not a goal that has expenditures tied to it. We call this a focus goal. And the purpose is to monitor students in this group, students with disabilities, and related programs. So there's no expenditures to report, but the actions fully implemented, the specialized staffing that we put in place in our district supporting that least restrictive environment, and those that are in progress, partially implemented, monitoring those systems, professional development, and additional behavioral interventions that are put in place. So all of that kind of closes the mid-year report, which brings us now to the point where I can happily say we're ready to start developing our new LCAP. So the exciting part about this LCAP for 24-25 is that it's a new 3-year cycle, which means not only the LCAP template and the things that we have to report to the state are changing, but also we get to kind of look at us again and say, what do we want our goals to be? What do we want to change? What do we want to add for the next 3 years for our district? Some of the things that will be included in this new template, I'm going to go a little bit out of order, but a change in the way goals are being reported. In the past, for the most part, just those first two, focus and broad goals, were part of the LCAP. Now the state is asking us to include a maintenance goal. So essentially, there may be something that we have in the LCAP this year that we want to say, hey, this is something we want to watch. We know we're on the right track, so we're going to put this in as a maintenance of progress goal as opposed to a focus or a broad goal. So that's a new area. Also, in the way we're reporting data in the new LCAP, we will also now be reporting difference from baseline each year, which I think for members of the public is a really positive. So they'll see where we are in the beginning of the year, and then each year as we report, it'll show either the improvement or decline from that point. Very similar to the way the dashboard works. And then for just the one other change for our English learners in our district, we will now be presenting actions and data, breaking that group into 2 areas, current English learners and then long-term English learners, with the idea that we want to, as a district, those long-term English learners are students who we need to move towards our English proficiency as best as possible. So in addition, we'll be providing a LCAP annual update. So you're going to hear LCAP a lot from me, but the annual update is a 1-year transition document. So essentially, I'm going to be providing 2 LCAPs at the end of this year. One is an annual that reviews the progress from the previous, kind of closing out the last 3-year cycle, and then the other one is our actual LCAP that is the 3 years moving forward. And here's our development timeline. So very similar to our process that has been in the past. Following this meeting and any questions you may have, we will start the development process. That includes, as you can see, gathering input from our community, parents, staff, teachers, everybody. Analyzing and taking a lot of the data that we've gone over and kind of what are the actions that we need to be putting into place. Developing a draft of the document around the March-April time, and then presenting that back to you as a draft, and then eventually moving through the final approval process. So that closes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Looks good. I think that clarification in long-term English learners and English learners, I think that would be a good addition to it.
I do too.
Well, I would just like to say that, the LCAP has kind of become all-consuming. It is, and it's a good thing because it's really an accountability for us as a school board, as schools, to the funds that we're receiving from our taxpayers. But I just want to thank Mark and his team for the amount of work, the amount of work that goes into the LCAP and keeping up on the LCAP, and the development of it is way more encumbering than it's been in the past. And yet, Mark, you and your team have risen up and are really doing a great job with it. I think it really reflects where we can help support our students or our staff, and then how they can help support our students. So thank you for your hard work on that.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. Lots of work and information, and now on to the next 3-year plan. Thank you very much. Excellent. Anyone else have a comment? Okay, we'll move to C, the annual review of the program effectiveness and publication and posting of school accountability report card for primary school, our primary school, Valley Center Elementary, Lilac School, Pauma School, Valley Center Middle School, Valley Center High School, Oak Glen High School, and VC Prep. At this time of posting this agenda, the reports are incomplete. We are awaiting data from the California Department of Education. These reports will be updated when that data is made available by COE. And do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve these incomplete reports.
Okay. And a second. Okay, Mary Polito seconds, and any discussion? Being none, we will go for the vote. Member Benjamin?
Aye.
Member Caputo?
Aye.
Member Kolb Senior? Member Polito? And Member Stroh votes aye. Human Resource Division, public disclosure and approval of the tentative collective bargaining agreement between VCPUSD and CSEA and its Chapter 795.
Yeah, in the Human Resources Division this month, we actually have these two items. This first one and second, I'll speak to both right now.
Okay.
I'm pleased to first present to you and the members of the board a tentative agreement reached between the district and CSEA Chapter 795. I want to thank the members of both negotiating teams. Every member of these teams gives up time away from their regular jobs to sit down at the bargaining table and negotiate a collective bargaining agreement between the district and the union. For CSEA, that included Andrew Gonzalez, Rick Pena, Junior Rocha, Beatrice Rees, William Stratford. From CSEA, their labor relations representative, Jesus Ferrer, and of course their president, Christine Stolek. And on the district side, Michael Aviles, Colleen Hubline, Mauricio Ortega, and Leani Osugi represented the district in negotiations. I also want to take this time to thank my team in HR, Ellen, Lisa, and Christina for all their logistical help with this process. This tentative agreement really reflects the hard work of all the people involved in negotiating, and I present this with a recommendation for ratification. The second item that we're presenting in Human Resources is a salary increase for management and non-represented employees. So, of course, the principals and APs and directors and such, we don't have a union who represents us. And so this comes as a separate item. Essentially what this item would do would be, it would provide management and non-represented employees in the district with the exact same compensation that you approved for teachers and other certificated employees in a previous meeting, and will hopefully approve for the classified employees in the first item that I present.
Okay, thank you so much, and thanks for all that hard work and making that transparent to us of all the people involved. We appreciate that, because it takes that in collaboration. We appreciate it. So we will move forward for a motion, please.
So moved, and we're doing item
Number
A.
1. Uh-huh.
Okay.
A, correct.
Also move.
I'll second.
Okay, a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
Being none, let's vote. Member Benjamin?
Aye.
Member Caputo?
Aye.
Member Kolb Senior? Member Polito? And Member Stroh votes aye. And moving to the next, the salary increase for management, non-represented employee groups, and increase to the district, and increase to the district contribution for health and welfare benefits. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
And any discussion? Being none, let's vote. Member Benjamin?
Aye.
Member Caputo?
Aye.
Member Kolb Senior? Member Polito? And Member Stroh votes aye. Moving on to advanced planning, finally here. The next regular board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 8th at 6 p.m. at VCHS Media Center.
So I have a conflict. I'm going to be out of the country with my family on the 8th. And so I'd ask if you guys would consider if we can move it back 1 week to the next Thursday, the 15th, February 15th.
Okay.
If that works
From
for you
the-
guys.
All right.
Because
discussion on
Mary's going to be gone, so we'll be down to 4 members, and then if I'm
yeah.
gone. So
Right,
if you
we'll
guys
only have 4.
would consider that. I appreciate the honesty.
So then there would only be 3.
So, are you guys kind of, I guess,
Asking.
if you're asking for the 20, I'm sorry,
15.
the 15th, if everybody's okay with that, then what we'll do is when we adjourn the meeting, we will change the date on that, and we'll reflect that in the minutes and Julie will be able to do that for us. Does that work for everybody?
That works for me.
Okay.
Yes.
But no one has a problem right now at the 15th.
No.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
No, no, no. Okay, so now we're moving to adjournment. Yep. And Member Polito? Yep. I would like you to adjourn the meeting, please. And second, no discussion. We are, thank you for coming. The meeting is, do we need to wait a minute?
You need to take a vote, but I would just read out what the final is.
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay, I'm sorry about that. That kind of threw me, but I will take that. But we didn't take that vote. We were excited to move forward for you. Yes, yes. Okay, so now the next regular meeting will, will be February the 15th. That's the Thursday, but one week back, at 6 p.m. at VCHS Media Center. So those are the changes. We will now, go ahead, adjourn the meeting, and we're voting. Yeah. And we just need to vote. Member Benjamin?
Aye.
Member Caputo?
Aye.
Member Kolb, Senior? Member Polito? And Member Stroh votes aye. Thank you. It is passed, and we are adjourned.